Hi everyone, I wanted to do this quick video. Well, who knows if it's gonna be quick, but I wanted to do this quick video in response to the last video that I did, which was talking about how we thrive under pressure and a lot of the questions and the feedback I got after that video. So this one's gonna focus on how you really train your mind. Understanding a whole bunch of things that are really different in our current context. Twitter just announced that all employees can now work from home forever. And this is becoming increasingly true with tech companies all over. We see an incredible amount of people who are losing their jobs, and we're also knowing that we're right at kind of the precipice of at least a recession, but what's looking like a depression, where more and more people are gonna need to find creative ways of making their money at home. And for me, I'm really thinking about all the single moms out there, all the moms out there who are working from home and who are juggling having kids around, but still needing to be really incredibly productive, but also for any of you who needs to pick up an extra hustle, who need to be really productive at home. This is how you train your mind to be productive at home, how you train your mind to be productive and to keep in a growth mindset and to really be able to work in ways that are most sustainable for you. The first thing I'm gonna recommend is to do the hardest thing first. I used to work from a standpoint of wanting to do the easier things first. So I would map out what my list was going to be for the day, and I would like to pick off the things that were easiest for me to do and that were the most fun. And then at the end of the day, I would feel like good about the things that I've done. But what I would find was that the harder things that I didn't want to do would keep getting pushed off almost indefinitely. And that's not a good thing. And this might mean, your taxes if you're self-employed. It might just mean uncomfortable phone calls that you have to make, applications that you have to fill out. Whatever it is, do the hard thing first. The very first time you open your computer, the very first time you open your phone, before you get on your Instagram, before you get on Twitter, before you do the things that are fun and light and are great distractions, do the hardest thing first. And the thing is that once you do the hardest thing first, it really sets the tone for the rest of the day. It puts you on a whole mood where you recognize that you accomplished the hardest thing that you had to do, and now all the rest of the day is, cake. It might not be cake, but it's definitely easier than what it would be like if that hard thing was looming at the end of the day and then you ended up having to push it to the following day. So definitely do the hard thing first, do it right away, do it as soon as possible. No matter how long it's gonna take you, definitely tackle that one first. 2, the other one that people were really talking to me about, was struggling with, was this idea of discipline. Now, if you think about that really cute challenge that's going around with the kids, where the parents say like, okay, you can have, 3 of these if you don't touch it and you wait for me to come back. That is self-discipline. It's about saying, I'm gonna forgo this immediate gain for something in the future that will be greater. And this is the thing. For me, self-discipline is also about like a really deep amount of self-love. It's about loving myself so much that I'm not just going to give up my future for my present. I'm not just gonna give up all of the gains that are gonna come in my future for what I'm experiencing now in my present. And this is true about, money. If you don't spend that money today, you're gonna have more of it tomorrow. If you don't, eat that thing right now, then you're gonna have more of it for the next time. And obviously you wanna have a balance in your life of making sure that you're giving yourself, praise and encouragement and all those sorts of things. But the short-term benefit compared to the long-term gains is really important for us to consider in those moments. And sometimes what's very difficult, especially if we have been through a lot of trauma or a lot of really difficult times, it becomes really difficult to plan for the future, to imagine that there's a future for us. But holding on to that hope, and again, that sense of self-love, like I love myself so much that I really want to give myself this big gift in the future, is huge. I also think something that really helps for me is, at the end of the day, I have mapped out right across from my bed this beautiful, beautiful collection of images of all my biggest dreams for my future. Don't share them with anyone else. They're just for you, and they're just for you to have a relationship with. But I put those on my wall so that the very last thing I look at night are those big dreams. And then at night, as I'm trying to fall asleep, that's what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about the beautiful place I want to live, or the home that I want to have, or the way that I want to take care of my loved ones. I really think really, really meaningfully about what my future is going to bring, how I'm going to get there, and why it's so necessary right now for me to forego, spending all my money on something silly or not being as disciplined as I'd like to be. Because If you're gonna always wait for something to feel good in terms of when you wanna do it, chances are you're never gonna do it. We can't just do things when we feel good. We have to do them so that we derive the pleasure from doing them and not just wait to be motivated or inspired. And that's difficult for me as an artist. I like to work with inspiration, but we also have to just be creating this idea, and I mentioned this again in the last video, of habits over goals. The third thing that I would mention is meditation. Now, meditation isn't one of those things that takes time, it really gives time, which is huge. I send to a lot of the people who are in my business development and who are doing goal setting a lot of guided meditations, and often they're around recognizing simple, basic concepts like you are enough. You can stand up to other people's criticisms. People criticize Beyonce every single day. They think the things that she does are trash. Who cares? You cannot care about those things. You have to be committed to your own vision for your future, and guided meditation practices that help you hear these kinds of messages are so important. I was at this Salesforce conference and they were mentioning that in 48 hours on the internet, the same amount of content that's been produced since like the beginning of the printing press is produced in that amount of time. So we are inundated with so many messages that are increasing our cortisol levels, that are blocking out a lot of our natural connection to ourselves and our connection to the world around us. Meditation allows you to cut out all that noise and bring the focus back to yourself, back to, again, what we're actually being forced to consider right now, which is what is essential, what is at the core, what are the messages that are most important to us, and how can you hear your own authentic voice? Because really the only thing you and all of us have to offer is that only you are you. Only you have the incredible gift and the incredible skill that only you possesses. And so a lot of the time what we're doing, what we see a lot of, especially on social media, is just copycats. We see what one person is doing and we want to just do the same thing, and we want to just kind of jump on viral trends in the hopes that we too will go viral. But what I really want to encourage you to do is for you to be authentic to who you are, and then you can tap into an audience or a group of people or a collective of people who are also authentic to you too. And this is something I've struggled with too, that the more that we people please, the more that we try to be someone else or try to follow these other trends, the less likely we are to be connected to people who actually like us. And so it does mean that if you do something that people don't like, it'll be so easy for them to drop you because the connection that they have to you isn't authentic. And it really is only with those authentic, meaningful connections that only come from meditation, only come from silencing the outside world, turning inwards to ourselves, healing the ways in which we don't trust ourselves, don't love ourselves, don't value ourselves, don't feel like we should be listened to or we have any value. It's only with healing those things through that meditation and therapy, but through that meditation, that we can actually tap into the best ways for us to be in the world, to contribute, to grow, and also to maintain our discipline. The last thing I want to say is that training your mind is often a lonely, solitary process. And that is actually something that works kind of with what we're experiencing right now. That there is a lot of loneliness that we're dealing with, and loneliness is absolutely not a long-term sustainable feeling. It's not something that we want to be lonely all the time. We all need human connection. There is no substitute for human connection. There's no substitute for those beautiful relationships that we have around us. And there's also no substitute for the solitary relationship that we maintain with ourselves. So this process of you training your mind is often a very solitary one for a couple of different reasons. Often when you start to do things that are very different, or you start to impose a different kind of discipline in your life, other people around you might feel really uncomfortable. They might feel as though you are judging them because they're not doing the same things, or they might not understand why you are in such a hurry to change your life from the one that you have, especially if it's one that they share with you. I was reading a Reddit thread of people who had changed really drastically in the times that they were with their partners, and a lot of them, ended those relationships. And I think that sometimes when we're not developing and growing at the same time as someone, it can create this wedge where we grow apart from each other. But again, I don't think that you have to grow apart from someone and that doesn't mean that there's opportunities for us to not come back together. If you find that in the way that you're growing and developing is taking you away from other people, it's okay to embrace that experience. Still reach out to people, still be a good friend, a good partner, a good member of your family, but also know that when you are going through very big transformations, often the kind of commitment that you're making yourself, the kind of changes that you're making might not be ones that are understood by anyone else. So embrace a little bit of solitude. You know, that's one of the best things I can say about really training your mind is embracing that solitude, enjoying the time that you spend with yourself, knowing that a lot of your life is spent truly solitary. And it can be a really beautiful thing because then again, we get to face things about ourselves that we were maybe in denial about. We get to learn to love the unique qualities about who we are. And again, in that time, we can really identify what our blockages are that are unique to us and figure out how we can address those blockages so that we can become a better version of ourselves. So that's the video. Again, just a few ideas of the ways I train my mind to be really productive and also to help me in my process of healing and growing, which is a lifelong process. So like, comment, and subscribe. Tell me about the things that you use to train your mind, and even more, tell me the things that you're really struggling with. And maybe there are other ways I can adjust videos or share other resources that might be helpful for you so that you can keep it moving and keep it growing.